Welcome to the 365 Message Center Show, episode 398. Daniel's making me crack up because I've taken 2 takes to get this right. Why is this? Because we've got 5 messages we want to cover. The first one, as a highlight, I want to let you know that there's a little new trust indicator thing that you can see in your chats and Teams, and if you just take a closer look, you might try and figure out whether you can trust this person or not that you're having a conversation with. I know I didn't when I had that conversation with Daniel because I just wasn't sure what was that little dude. We'll talk about that. The visual refresh of app icons for Microsoft 365, the glorious looking colorful things that look very glassy. Let's talk about where they will fit into the picture, and we'll finally be able to use a / in our Copilot chats and say, hey, Copilot, tell me something that's been happening or discussed within our team's channels. Yay, more stuff to gather and pull together. So that's our highlights. How about we get into the show?
Daryl?
Hello.
You know what? I am so proud of our people, our listeners, our watchers of the show, because I noticed that they clicked the hype button on the YouTube video in YouTube mobile.
Wow.
Yeah. I went in and looked, and some people had done that. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you. If you're on YouTube mobile, there's a new button that says hype. Basically helps smaller creators, creators like us, so other people can find it. That's really what it's all about. It's just other people who might find value in this find it. So you can click the hype button and hype this episode, if you will. That's in addition to liking and subscribing, giving the thumbs up. And if you're on audio, then go ahead and ping us on all the socials that matter at 365MCS. We'd love to hear your thoughts as we go through the messages here. Hit us down in the comments, what are your thoughts on these? Let's get the conversation going.
Yeah, there's good conversation going on most of our episodes. Daniel, I've got to say, I'm missing the hype button. Maybe it's a regional thing, or it's just not obvious to me. But it's good to see that it's been used. We've got 5 messages to get through. Let's get stuck into it. I'll start off, if I may.
Fine.
And I'll come up with my own segue. I don't know. Where do I go with this one? Maybe I'll reassign this message to you.
No. I'll reassign it to you, and then you can take ownership of this message.
What if I leave and then you're not able to reassign this to me? Okay. Well, here we go. We've got a Microsoft Copilot Studio agent ownership reassignment. This is MC 1162291. Firstly, Daniel, the side comment. This is probably the largest message I've seen for Microsoft Copilot Studio. Most of them are about this big, and they felt like they've been succinctly summarized by Copilot. This one has a whole lot more detail. But what is the point of this? The point is, people will create these agents with Copilot Studio because we can. We go into a bit more detail and get Copilot to do things for us. We create these glorious things, and then, what happens if we leave the organization? Well, up until now, too bad. Keep the account alive. But this capability allows an AI admin. Is that what the role's called? AI administrators, yes, and global administrators will be able to reassign agents ownership to other people with the Copilot. Let's be explicit about this, with a active Microsoft 365 Copilot license. We know what this means. They'll be able to assign the ownership to another person. That person will be able to have full edit and delete permissions. They can also upload files associated with the agent. Previous owners, of course, will lose access, but then maybe if they've moved on, that's not such a bad thing. And before we talk about how this is rolled out, because there's 2 phases, what's up with launching features that don't have administrative controls like this from the get-go? I just want to say that.
Yeah, now that you've said it. Yeah, it is. This was one of the first things that we saw when agents came into M365 Admin Center. It's like, oh, cool. We can see the agents people are creating. Now, what can we do with that? Nothing. You can just see them. Good luck. You can't do anything about it. So now able to reassign is a good update. But I agree. It's like, it would have been great to have this at the beginning.
Yeah. It's core, I guess, base level stuff that you expect to be able to control. It's enough to have visibility, great. But one good point that Daniel and I discuss is the pace at which Copilot is making changes, putting things out, that sometimes the things that they're releasing don't have the administrative controls. They want to get the capability out there, get some feedback first, and then eventually come back to doing the admin stuff. Where have I seen that before? Microsoft Loop. So yeah, about the rollout for this, 2 phases, and it has to do with your version of Copilot that you've been using to create these agents. The first phase will be early October, that it'll apply to agents created in Copilot Lite, Copilot Studio Lite, I should say. Phase 2, late October, applies to agents created in Copilot Studio Full and the Microsoft 365 Agents Toolkit. So interesting that they're splitting it out based on how you created this, regardless of the agent itself. So generally available worldwide, rolling out begins early October based on these phases, and complete by late October when they get to phase 2 and the end of that. All done in October. We're here already. We're in October.
Indeed.
Daniel, as I mentioned in our highlights at the beginning of the show, there was something that popped up beside your name in Teams chat that I was in with you. And I just wasn't sure, who is that little dude? What is that thing? I hover over it. What is this about?
Well, it's updated Microsoft Teams Trust Indicators, a new way of representing users outside your organization. MC1162276 is the message ID. So Microsoft's introducing a way to a visual indicator next to a person's name when they show up in Teams and chat. And you're able to say, again, it's like you can look and see, is this a person in my organization? Well, if they have that little indicator, the answer is no. Then what level of trust should I bestow upon this person as I'm chatting with them? That's the intent behind this. Is it going to deliver? Well, let's look into it. So this message talks about, well, it's to help you quickly identify external participants. Well, yes, if there's that icon there, no matter what it looks like, they're external. And this is really helping you, another indicator to help you understand, should you share internal information? Should you share sensitive information with this person? Just because they have a same name as somebody internal doesn't mean it's that person, right? So you got to be careful. So I'm a fan of introducing something like this, Daryl, where it's a little bit more, just another thing to let you know, hey, this is just like, Microsoft does in Outlook. It gives you an indicator, hey, this is external. You don't often get emails from this person. You need to be careful. Same with Teams. It's good to have this indicator. However, now let's get into the problem I see with this is they've gotten too fancy with it. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the screenshot in the message, the third one, which is, it gives you all of the variations of what this icon can look like. You're supposed to interpret not you, our wonderful listeners who are probably a little bit more techie, you are seeing this kind of stuff all the time, or you think of things like, how do I communicate to others about features? No, I'm talking about regular old users who just use the technology to get their job done. Their job isn't the technology; it is to do something else, and so I have to use the technology. They look at all these icons. It doesn't make sense. Some of these there's a person, and it's there's a checkbox, or there's some sort of clipboard looking thing. There's an exclamation mark. That could there's a letter, an envelope looking thing. Like there's a question. Like what are these? What do they mean? And I'm supposed to have 6 different levels of trust, and it's too confusing. It is way too confusing. My suggestion would be it needs to be 1, maybe 2, but it needs to be different, very, very different. And you need to hover over it to get more details, right? If I'm supposed to be paying more attention to this and going, okay, what is this? It needs to be very simple. Hey, this person's external. Be aware, hover, and they can hover over it and it can give details, anonymous user. Because they're trying to get you to think, is this a guest? Is this someone who we have trusted enough to, add as a guest into our environment? Is it someone who's totally external? So it's just an account that, is messaging you, or is this an anonymous account that's interacting? Like anonymous meaning email hasn't been verified. What is it? So take a look at that. I think, what are your thoughts, Daryl, on this? Am I fussing just because I'm, being grumpy about it, or is it a bit too much, too complicated for, end users to, I'm supposed to understand that. And then when you hover over it, the language that Microsoft has put in there is a little complicated and just doesn't really convey or it's just not simple enough, I think, in this instance. What are your thoughts, Daryl? Do you agree, disagree?
I think this is going to need a campaign to let people know what those icons mean. First of all, they've got 3 versions of the same icon for how it's displayed. It could be a full badge. I think we've got an example in the message there where here's a group chat, and the badge over that group chat is we've got some external people in here, but don't worry, they've got a checkbox, and that means that they are trusted. So external but trusted. And a little further down, external with an exclamation mark. They are outside of the organization, but you don't have any explicit block or allow list for them. So someone's in there, but you haven't really trusted them necessarily. Do regular people know what this means? No. And some of those icons, as Daniel have pointed out, are kind of small, and you've really got to get your magnifying glass over the top of them to see.
Yeah.
There's an article a bit further down. It's linked, and it says representation of user outside of organization on the Microsoft Learn. That'll give you a full rundown of what those badges are and what they mean in the various versions of them. But yeah, I mean, it's almost like we're having to learn labels,
and
labels.
And that's great. This learn page is great. It gives details, but our users aren't going to read that. And so you're going to have to summarize that information in a way that makes sense for your users. So now we're having to recreate learning content to educational content for our users to get them to understand this new icon that could be, confusing depending upon where it's shown. And anyway, I like the idea. I just don't like some of the details of the implementation. But they didn't ask me. So, so public preview rolling out late September 2025. We already have it in our tenants. That's why. Expected to be completed by late November. General availability worldwide GCC, GCC High, and DoD will be late November through early January 2026. So now is the time to be really thinking about what does this need to look like for communicating with the users of what this means. So get on that, people, because you're going to need to communicate and let people know what in the world is happening with this new little icon thing. Daryl, speaking of icons, we got a refresh that was announced last week. Tell us all about the visual refresh of our icons.
Microsoft 365 visual refresh of app icons. This is MC11637778. The Microsoft 365 icons for the apps in that collection, in that suite, were last changed in 2017. And so I think it was 2017. They were fluent versions of them.
Really?
Yeah,
It's been that long?
Yep. Not quite a decade. I think about 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
It feels like it was only 3 years ago.
I know. And so there were a few that have come out since, and they also have kind of been added in, and they've got a fluent look and feel. But they're being refreshed. They were launched and discussed, first of all, by the design team, the Microsoft design team. They had their nice article that detailed all the fluffy thoughts and feelings about how they came up with those, which is cool. I mean, they look nice. The thing that I noticed as I was looking at this was, hey, there's some icons that are missing here, at least in the material that we've seen so far. Some videos that are on the M365 Copilot, M365 channel on YouTube, are going through things like, here's how to vibe create something with PowerPoint. And then at the end of it, it's got this kind of closing outro with Microsoft 365 Premium, which not quite related to this. It was talked about at the release of these app-freshed icons, but Microsoft 365 Premium is the new name for the consumer version of Microsoft 365 that you can get and use as applications on your desktop that included Copilot. So, nice looking icons. I think that we'll start to see them. Apparently, we'll start to see them in the next couple of weeks appearing in our various services. And I guess also in the desktop applications once those get up to date. There's nothing significant happening and changing around how these things operate. It's just about starting to give it a visual refresh so that we can see this. And they fall in line, I feel, with the look and feel of that glassy Copilot ribbon logo. So it's trying to give it that consistent look and feel. Yeah, I mean, not too much more to say, just that we'll see the complete list eventually. The message talks about it being available for all of the productivity tools. I don't see Microsoft Loop there yet. I see Clipchamp there for some reason. A Defender. Yeah. Anyway. So general availability worldwide begins early October 2025. Rollout phases across the web, desktop, mobile platforms complete by late October. You'll see those new icons. Let's switch on over to OneDrive, and something that we face when a person leaves the organization. A lot of things get directed to save to OneDrive. How is this going to become easier for us to manage, Daniel?
Let's learn together. OneDrive, simplified file transfer for departing employees. MC1164381. So this is really the update here is around how it functions of when a manager has gained access to a departed employee's OneDrive, how they can take and move those files and take ownership and really manage that process. Because frankly, it's not the easiest process when I'm working, let's say Daryl's my boss and I'm working, I'm doing my job. Daryl doesn't know what I'm doing. He doesn't know, all the different files I've created and why. He doesn't know where, because he's not micromanaging. Because if he micromanages me, he might as well just do it himself. So I'm doing my job. He's doing his job, which is different. When I leave the organization, he's sent an email saying, all right, deal with these files. How in the world is he supposed to know? So Microsoft is helping to that process a little bit by changing the notification. So once an account is deleted, the manager or a designated secondary owner, if that has been set up in your organization, gets the email, and it really is saying, hey, you need to deal with this. Because if you don't, then the files go bye-bye, and there could be some important files in there. So simplified, but here's a message saying, yeah, you need to take action on this. But then once the manager goes in and looks at the files, having an improved view of the files and filtering, because really the way this process works, in my experience, what I've seen is a manager has to go through and say, okay, what were they working on? I need to filter. I need to look through these to find the important, what I would think would be important files, so that I can deal with them. And that leads us to the next point, which is the move functionality, right? So they can reorganize those files, move them to where they need to be. The move, bulk move of these files will be able to also keep that sharing, right? Because really the way that works is people create content in their OneDrive and then they share it out, and they oftentimes don't do what they're supposed to do, which is when those files become part of business processes, you really should move that into a SharePoint site and out of your OneDrive. But they have all these files that are shared with a bunch of people. And so we want to keep that sharing. We don't want to break that when we move it. So improving that, being able to, when you could think about, I'm reassigning or I'm moving a bunch of these files and I want the collaborators, the people who have access to it, to not get an individual email and notification of, oh, this file. So they're going to be consolidating those alerts as well. Daryl, do you see this as a problem? I do see it as a problem, generally speaking, as dealing with OneDrive files when someone leaves. And I'm not sure that, while I think some of these improvements are great, in that it's helping with communication, simplifying that communication so people know what's going on. It still doesn't fix the fact that people store too much content on a more permanent basis in their OneDrive, and therefore it's kind of locked in a silo, and manager might not be the right person that has to go through it. But is that your experience in organizations?
I don't think we'll be able to solve that, right?
Right.
People are so pressed for time that they deprioritize things like, let's organize these files the way that they should be organized. Because they know that the flow-on effect is, I need to contact these 8 people for that file and tell them, okay, it's been shifted over here, and remove the file from your recently accessed list, or all those sorts of little things that most people won't even think of. But yeah, that challenge of, is the manager the right person to make these decisions? Well, they're the ones that are going to have to wear it, and take responsibility. But this tool, I guess, at least gives them that ability to do a bulk decision of, let's lift and shift it into shared storage, make sure the stuff is still shared, and then figure it out as we go.
Yeah, I think, this simplifying communications and making it a little more obvious as to what's going on and what has happened for these notifications, I think is good. I think you're right generally speaking, that's exactly what happens is someone left. Okay, take their OneDrive files and either you move them all into someone else's OneDrive or you dump it onto some SharePoint site and you're like, okay, we'll deal with that later. And you know when that later is, right? It's never. But I think we need to get better at this because it's Copilot. Copilot keeps coming and biting us in the butt because if you keep these files around and don't go through them, then they're used by Copilot to create more files, right? And give you answers. And we've got to clean it out. And so, please, managers, use this time to clean. But I know, hopefully, this process will get a little better. But I like this improved communication and how that is going to help. So this has begun rolling out mid-October through early November 2025 for worldwide GCC, GCC High, and DoD. Daryl, can you bring this one home and let us know how actually it's bringing more information into Copilot from Teams, how we're going to be able to use that information easily in Copilot?
Yeah, I think this is great. This is especially for those organizations that have been maturely using channels for their conversations. Microsoft 365 Copilot Teams channels available in Context IQ prompts. MC1165054. You open up a chat, you can say, prepare me for my day, and it will look across your chats, your emails, your calendar, various other places too. But the team, let's just focus on the Teams area. It's just looking at chats, group chats, meeting chats. Is that where everything happens? Maybe in some organizations that are not really using Teams the way that it should be. Maybe they're having all of their conversations in a group chat. Sounds familiar. But for those who are having them in a channel, we want to be able to dip in there and find out, hey, Copilot, has anyone assigned any tasks to me? Oh, I've missed out on some stuff here. Can you catch me up with what's been happening in my project channel? Then this is good news. Context IQ, remember, is a fancy word for we put a / and we can choose which context or content we want to get Copilot to look at. And as we do that, and the message is good, it's got a nice screenshot, thank you very much, where it says it's got an / to choose from channels. Sorry, I'm pointing out that channels is misspelt in the screenshot. But you can / and say, I want to look into the channels, and it'll have the channel name with the team name underneath it in smaller font. And you can explore your channels to find out what content might have been discussed in there. When this is released, I'm sure it'll be channels, but yeah. Is that going to be useful, Daniel?
I don't have any channels, but no, very useful. I think, as you said, there's a lot of work going on in channels, and we need to be able to, if we're going to use Copilot effectively, oftentimes it's combining sources. It's I need to know what's going on. Please help me summarize, the activity that's gone on in this channel in the last week and compare it with this list of to-dos that I have. Is there anything missing, that I need to call out, stuff like that, to where using it in this format is going to be very helpful.
And this may pair up with another update we talked about an episode or two ago, where the channel agent becomes available and we can ask Copilot about channel content. You can't do that today. You can't go in and open up a Copilot panel and say, catch me up with stuff in the channel. So this is all part and parcel of it. Fantastic. There's no really things that you need to do to prepare. It's going to be on by default. It's going to be just a useful thing for us to use. And of course, it's only going to give you access to the channels that you have access to. So you start typing that channel name, and you'll see the channels that you have access to. So if you want to read more detail, there's also links through to the Learn More articles and Microsoft support. And this is generally available worldwide. Rollout begins mid-October and complete by late October. That is the show. That is the context of it
Indeed.
all. Did I raise your IQ?
Always. You're always doing that, and I hope everyone will show appreciation to Daryl this week for raising our IQ. Hit us up on all the socials that matter at 365 MCS. Drop your comments down below on the video. Remember, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and the hype button on the mobile app. And
If it's available.
If yeah, it's going to be available, I'm sure. Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. We greatly appreciate you. I'd love to hear from you. And next time, we are going to cover lots of Copilot. So I'm predicting.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure.
Happening in that space, does it change much?
I'm very sure there's going to be Copilot. And there's a Copilot OneDrive event happening very, very soon, too. So I'm sure we'll cover some stuff that was announced there as well.
Okay. Well, have a great week, everyone. See you in the chat. See you in the comments. Bye for now.
Bye.